Welcome to ILTV's Israel Weekly. Our main topics today: Jewish home leader Naftali Bennett backtracks on his resignation threat, and Airbnb decides to remove listings in Judea and Samaria from its site. I'm Lidar Gavelazi, and joining me in the studio to discuss are Director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies, Dr. Martin Sherman, Political Advisor Sophia Nahon, Gush Shalom spokesperson Adam Keller, and Political Advisor Yotam Yakoba.
Hi.
Welcome all. Jewish Home Party leader and Education Minister Naftali Bennett backtracked on his resignation threat, deciding to keep his party in the coalition. Following the resignation of Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman last week, Bennett issued an ultimatum to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling for the defense minister portfolio or saying he would quit the coalition and force early elections. Netanyahu, however, decided to keep the defense portfolio to himself. He now holds a total of 4 portfolios and maintains a shaky coalition of 61 seats out of a possible 120.
יש לנו עוד שנה שלמה עד הבחירות. אנחנו בעיצומה של המערכה, ובאמצע המערכה לא נוטשים. באמצע המערכה לא משחקים בפוליטיקה. ביטחון המדינה הוא מעבר לפוליטיקה.
אם ראש הממשלה רציני בכוונותיו, ואני רוצה להאמין למילים שלו אמש, הרי שאני אומר כאן לראש הממשלה, אנחנו מסירים ברגע זה את כל דרישותינו הפוליטיות, ונתייצב לסייע לך במשימה אדירה זו, שישראל תחזור לנצח. אני מניח שאני אשלם מחיר פוליטי מסוים בשעות הקרובות, בימים הקרובים. לא נורא, נתגבר. You win some, you lose some.
Yotam, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Was this a smart move on Bennett, sort of this flip-flopping?
I think he lost this round. I think Netanyahu did him some kind of a homeschooling inside the right wing, and I believe Netanyahu stayed the bigger dominant winner in the right wing. So we can all see that Netanyahu just put him away from the arena, from the political arena. So I believe Bennett lose this time.
Sophia, so Yotam says Netanyahu outmaneuvered Bennett. How was he able to do this?
Well, we all know that Netanyahu is one of the best politicians in the world, not just in Israel. Well, I think that the problem that Bennett created was that he tried to get a position as the Minister of Defense for the next election, to make a statement that I can do that. And get this position next time. I don't think that he believed that he could do any change, important change in the office. But it was a bad move, and I'm really happy that the Prime Minister succeeded to solve the problem. Also, I'm really proud of Bennett that he find the right way to get down from this tree that he claimed on, and actually to make his base, political base, stronger, and show the people in Israel that support him that he not just care about the position that he will fill in the government, he also care about keep this party still exist after the next election.
Mm-hmm. And Martin, so what's in store for the coalition now?
Well, first of all, I agree with what Sophia said, that Netanyahu really gave, on the eve of Bennett's ultimatum, gave a really powerful speech, which I was impressed by it, if not convinced by it, because I think in many ways it may be a mistake not to bring the elections forward, because what's brewing is the unification of all anti-Netanyahu elements with Benny Gantz and Ehud Barak and Tzipi Livni. So it might have been a good idea to preempt that organization, that the setting up of some kind of rival challenge to Netanyahu. But I don't think things will change very much unless that comes about, because of the great divide in Israeli politics is on the Palestinian issue. Even the last elections in 2015, which weren't supposed to be on the Palestinian issue, actually were, because if you look at the opposition, those are all parties which more or less support Palestinian statehood with a certain amount of enthusiasm. And in the coalition of the parties who at least who either oppose it or accept it with with a certain amount of reluctance. I'm not sure that Netanyahu made the smart move by not advancing the elections before his rivals can get together. Because if they do, they may for the first time pose a serious challenge to him, which is, of course, interesting because most of the people there are either untried politicians or total failures, like Tzipi Livni or Ehud Barak, who was probably the worst prime minister in the history of the nation, and now is trying to come back as the eminent grease of the anti-Netanyahu camp, which he served, by the way, very faithfully until he realized he couldn't, on his own merits, get through the threshold. So I think there are many questions that are still open.
And Adam, so Martin is saying that this gives time for the left to sort of regroup.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I quite agree, and I hope so. And there is the other factor which is hanging in the air, that the time when the Attorney General will at last get his act together and start the indictment against Netanyahu. And I think that if Netanyahu will then insist that he can be prime minister while twice or three times a week going to a court and sitting at the dock as the accused, I think it will make him look very uncomfortable. But I want to add about Bennett. I think I'm very happy that Bennett made a joke of himself, and that somebody who is involved 10 years in politics, I think, should have known a very basic rule that either you don't make an ultimatum, or if you make an ultimatum, you follow through on it. I think I think this, by the way, shows that he is not so fit to be defense minister, because the defense minister certainly should know that either you don't make an ultimatum or you follow through on your ultimatum. I'm very happy that Bennett discredited himself. I hope very much that it will cause the failure of his party, because I think that is the worst and most dangerous party in the Israeli politics. I think Bennett had caused very much damage to the educational system in which he is charged now. He would have caused even much more damage as defense minister.
What damage?
Damage as introducing. I did not interrupt you, please. He introduced right-wing nationalist elements into the curriculum. He has tried to make a witch hunt against university professors, which were not of his opinion. And his fellow minister Ayelet Shaked has done her best to destroy the judicial system of Israel.
To correct
introduced very right-wing judges into the Supreme Court who made very horrible and scandalous judgments, like expelling people from their homes. And I hope very much that this party will be discredited and defeated by this stupid mistake which its leaders made.
Well, you can be for sure that if they don't vote for Bennett, they won't be voting for your guys.
No, I for sure I don't expect to get votes from people of Bennett. But let's say I don't like Netanyahu. If in next elections the so-called Jewish Home Party, which I would call the fascist Home Party, will collapse and its voters go to the Likud, I would say that's a slight improvement.
Yeah, for someone who supports Hamas.
Yotam, I want to ask you, can Bennett bounce back from this?
I think Bennett can bounce back. He still have a strong base in the settlements. He's still a popular leader, but his fight with Netanyahu is not real. They have no dispute between them about the West Bank, about anything in the agenda. So as people in Israel, that they are for the right, for their right-wingers, they have no reason to vote to Naftali Bennett when they can vote for Bibi Netanyahu. So this is the problem. He doesn't succeed to distinguish between the Jewish Home and the Likud party. This is a political problem that's going to go with the Jewish Home to the next election.
So things seem to be looking up for Netanyahu. He's managed to keep his coalition going. What does he now hope to accomplish in the time that he has left?
Well, I would imagine that he would try to carry on with the same policy that's kept him in power for almost a decade. I think one of the things important to Netanyahu personally is that he will break Ben-Gurion's record as the longest-serving premier. But I don't think that. I think unless they can have a coherent policy towards Gaza, I think they may lose votes to parties on the right. And unless the right can correctly conceptualize what's going on between us and the Palestinians, which is, I said, the dividing line in Israeli policy, they will never be able to have a policy which is more than muddling through. Because as long as they consider the Palestinians a prospective peace partner for some future arrangement, they will never arrive at anything different from now. They have to conceptualize the Palestinians as Palestinians see themselves, as implacable enemies who must be treated as implacable enemies.
This is what they're doing in the last 10 years.
Really?
You cannot say that Netanyahu and the far-right coalition is doing anything that promoting the left agenda.
The right...
Who's holding them back? You know what, Martin? Who's holding them back?
I'm glad you asked the question.
Yeah.
Because the right wing regularly wins elections, but never gets into power. Because the power is held by civil society elites who control the courts, who control the mainstream media.
But let me ask you something: how many budgets? How many armies in the civil society? The civil society doesn't hold the soldiers. They don't promote anything.
You're missing the point. The right wing wins elections and never takes power because they're intimidated by civil society elites, and that's the advantage of Ayelet Shaked, because Ayelet Shaked is the only person who's taken on civil society elites head-on and is beginning to win the battle.
Wait a minute.
Because you want unelected judges.
But the judges are not the civil society. The judges are part of Israel. They're not civil society. They're
final thoughts, because we have to move on. So,
Sophia,
I want to hear from you. Final thought.
Well, I think that we have a few important bills to pass in these few months that we left for the government. I think that we should pass these bills. We should finish our job for this government, and then on the right time, to go for election, and of course to bring 40 mandates for the Likud, maybe more than that, because if we will get more mandates, we will be able to do things in the right way and not just fight for every vote that we need in the government, in the Knesset, for passing bills and get decisions.
Okay, so Airbnb has agreed to boycott settlements in Judea and Samaria, announcing plans to remove the listings from its site. The decision is being hailed as a victory by the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement, and is being strongly condemned by Israeli politicians as anti-Semitic, with many calling to launch a counter-boycott of the company. Lawmakers are currently looking to options to counter this decision, while a class action lawsuit against Airbnb has already been filed in a Jerusalem district court.
This decision is something completely unacceptable. This is a pure discrimination, something that is taken only against Jews that are living in Judea and Samaria. This is actually a racist decision. And more than that, I do believe that it is a double standard that is taken only against Israel, only against Jews who live here in the land of Israel.
Of course, we very much welcome this decision, and we believe that this decision is very, very important. And we hope that all companies, all travel companies will do the same as soon as possible.
Okay, Adam, let's start with you. Just how is this decision going to impact?
Now, I think that there is, of course, the direct economic effect of settlers who try to make their living by renting rooms. But I think that is not necessarily the most important aspect of it. I think that it is a political issue, and the political issue is that the government is trying to pretend that this situation of Israel holding on for 51 years already to occupied territories, keeping them under military rule, not giving civil rights to their Palestinian population, and planting their settlements, which are armed enclaves in the middle of Palestinian territory, that this is a normal situation which could go on forever. The government certainly does not intend to change it in either way. Doesn't intend to withdraw from these territories, also does not intend to ever give civil rights to the Palestinians. The government tries to pretend that that is a normal situation and that settlements are just normal Israeli communities which just happen to be in the middle of Israel.
When does history start for you? When does history start for you? You know, I've got a 90-word quote that I want to read to you that will explain to you exactly why Israel is in Judea and Samaria. Just before the Six-Day War, Arafat's predecessor said the following, Ahmed Shukeri, D-Day is approaching. The Arabs have waited 19 years, since 1948, for this and will not flinch from the war of liberation. This is a fight for the homeland. It is either us or the Israelis. There is no middle road. The Jews of Palestine will have to leave, and any old Palestine Jewish population who survive may stay, but it's my impression that none of them will survive. We shall destroy Israel and its inhabitants. And as for the survivors, if there are any, the boats are ready to deport them. Now you tell me, which homeland was he talking about? Which homeland was he talking about?
Wait a minute. That is a principled question, and I can answer it. And I could just say that this was said by Shukeri, but in 1993. Yasser Arafat signed an agreement with the Prime Minister of Israel in which the PLO recognized the state of Israel, and since then the PLO, the Palestinian Authority was sought to have a Palestinian state in the 67 borders. But let's go back to the Airbnb.
Right.
The government of Israel, the present government, is trying to pretend that this is a normal situation, and from time to time they get the rude surprise that the rest of the world does not follow. Okay. And I just want to say one more thing, that if to be against settlements is to be an anti-Semite, then a large part of citizens of Israel are anti-Semites. In fact, you could say that the divide in Israeli politics is between anti-Semites and pro-Semites. That is what comes when you say that this is anti-Semitism.
Sophia, I want to hear from you.
So first I have to say that I'm part of the thing that you called settlement. We used to call it Judea and Samaria. It's a biblical name that we have for this area. This area is part of Eretz Israel, of Israel, from the Bible time. It's part of Eretz Israel since the Bible time.
But it's not part of the state of Israel.
You will let me finish. To change the term of this area that is part of our land, part of our religious, our nationality, and to call it settlement or other word that people like to use to take the right that we have by biblical, from God and from also from our power as a Jewish state today, to take this term and just disappear it. And
the debate is not about the terms. The debate is about the boycott.
I'm going to the Airbnb and you will let me finish. I'm going to the Airbnb.
Go ahead.
But it's important for me because you're using terms that insult me.
Sorry that insults you. Your terms insult me.
Let me finish. About the Airbnb. We're talking about 200 houses in Judea and Samaria. It's a wrong way to look at that whole issue and say it's not a political. We are talking about business that trying to make a reality for a state, for Israel, and try to put a new board for Israel. It's not acceptable. We can't accept something like that. Other companies, business from over the sea cannot get decisions for Israel about the borders of Israel.
But
Israel, the only one that can decide for the borders of our country.
When is Israel going to decide?
Because of it. I respect you. I listen to you. Now you will listen to what I have to say. But because of it, Israel will get the decisions about Judea and Samaria, if it's part of Israel or not part of Israel. It's not the issue. The issue is not the issue. The issue about the Airbnb is
Hold on, Adam, let her finish. 1 second.
All this subject is about anti-Semitism, and I'm not just say it as a simple thing. It's a huge problem that businesses around the world and BDS movement trying to decide
against Jews
what is our borders.
Let's talk about
the question.
Let's talk about discrimination. Let's talk about double standard, and let's talk about hypocrisy. The State of Israel never annexed the West Bank, and the State of Israel signing international trade agreement that doesn't include the West Bank every time, every year. And you know what? Because this is the Israeli policy. Netanyahu, Shaked, Naftali Bennett, all of those are signed as in the name of Israel, the State of Israel, the government of Israel. They make a distinguish between the West Bank, that is not the Israeli sovereignty state, whatever. It's not the same. And this is the double standard. And you need to answer this question.
I agree with you. You know,
yes. Okay, Martin, last thought.
I agree with you. I think BDS is the fault of Israel. Why? Because they haven't distinguished between the symptom and the disease, the symptom and the sickness. The sickness is the delegitimization of Israel, which is because of the Palestinian narrative. Until they delegitimize and discredit the false Palestinian narrative, there will always be phenomena like BDS. BDS is what grows out of the delegitimization of Israel. Let me finish.
Hold on,
Adam, you can't monopolize this. When did the Palestinians claim Judea and Samaria as the ancient homeland? You tell me.
Since the beginning of British mandate.
No,
yes,
not at all.
Yes,
in the first version of the Palestinian National Covenant, they specifically, in clause 24, renounce any sovereign claims to Judea and Samaria.
Sorry, but in the British time, they claimed the whole of the country.
No.
British time, Palestinians wanted to have a Palestinian state. Sorry, but I studied Palestinians are absolutely in Palestine.
Okay,
Adam,
it's clearly a hot topic, but this is all the time that we have. Martin, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all the time we have for today for ILTV's Israel Weekly. I'd like to thank our guests, Dr. Martin Sherman, Sophia Nahon, Adam Keller, and Yotam Yakoba. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News, on Twitter at ILTV News, and on our website at iltv.tv. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Thanks for watching.